Hello and welcome back in to our conference previews, classification previews, state previews. I'll
Right.
quit calling it conference here in a moment. I guess it is a conference, right? I mean, it's partly, there's a lot of conferences in a classification. I'm Brad Caldwell, the general manager of the Arkansas Sports Network. Glad to have you along today as we preview the classifications along with conferences. And right now, it is 4A time. And, 4A is one of those that, you know, has a lot of teams that you think can possibly win it. And we're going to get a chance to talk about those here in just a moment. But glad to have you along. Duran
Yes,
Miller right
sir.
here.
Yes, sir.
Got Carson Ward right here. And let's talk about a few things that stick out to you to begin with, and then we'll get to our rankings.
Uh, Arkadelphia defending state champs, returning a lot of talent, and they really were impressive last year in the state championship game. Dardanelle loaded, got a lot of guys coming back. It's going to be fun to see if they can overtake Arkadelphia for the whole thing. Um, Warren lost some guys. They're still up there. Mills is a team that probably didn't get enough credit from a lot of people last year. They're going to be in the mix. Elkins is still going to be good, even though they lost some guys. We thought Elkins might take a step down last year, and obviously they were. I mean, you could argue they were better than the year before with Dizzy Dean and Deshaun Chairs and all that group. Just really impressive what Coach Watson has done up there. Um, and then just going through the list here, Batesville, Southside, they just phenomenal program. They've really got it rolling up there. We really like Monticello. I'm just hitting on a few here. And then 4A's deep, there's a lot of teams that could get in that top 10. Um, you know, the Clintons, the Lamars, the Pottsvilles, um, there's several I'm forgetting that are right there in the mix that makes this conference so deep. They could go so far. But it's going to be fun to just talk about it some more. I don't know if you want to get into the top tens right now or just kind of
Well,
give some of our initial thoughts.
let's get Carson give his initial thoughts, and then we will get into the top 10.
Yeah, Arkadelphia brings back Bryson McCoy. Had he was one of my top 10 players in the class, and uh, had I believe roughly 3,800 yards, over 40 touchdowns last year at Arkadelphia as their quarterback. They bring him back. Dardanelle's going to have Creed Vega, who's going to light up the scoreboard. You have his dual threat quarterback in every sense of the word, and he's just committed to Air Force. So he's going to be special again. You have some coaching changes that got some attention in 4A this year, starting with Josh Watson going over to Ozark, and then uh, Brad Cheshire going over to Nashville, and then Mark King, who's won state championships, going over to Dover, trying to repair that program a little bit. Um, and so, and that's just a couple of the ones that went down. I know there were definitely more, but those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. Um, and so you've got a lot of change happening, but you've also got a lot that's teams that are just building on what they have. You have Evan Goodwin, the four-star, transferring from Pulaski Academy in 7A to Bauxite in 4A, and that was a big change, and that's going to help them out in what was one of their I don't want to say weaknesses last year, but just you have a four-star offensive lineman that you can plug in and play immediately and protect your quarterback who got injured early in the season last year. That's definitely going to help. So then you got Warren, traditional power. Mills has a quarterback who's coming back after having a monster year as a freshman last year.
Elijah Moody.
Elijah Moody. And Monticello's going to be good. Southside's going to be good. Coach Simpson's one of the best in the state. And you got Hamburg with Nikel Lewis, who we talked to in Camden. He was really, really built real well, just kind of a low to the ground runner, but can obviously make some electric plays as well. And then Clinton's a team that we went on site for. We went to Clinton, talked to Coach Dufran there, and they've got a lot going for them this year as well. And there's a plenty that we're leaving out here just at the top of it. We'll get to them eventually, but there's been a lot that changed, a lot that stayed the same, and Change is going to be good for teams like Dover, who need a rebirth. Nashville, who's had some instability
Right.
at their coaching, and Ozark's a team that is traditional power, but they want to invest in football, and they got Coach Watson to come over there. It was a huge splash hire for them, and
Hmm.
Mills. I mean, the list goes on, so
Right.
it's going
Brand
to
new
be
energy,
interesting. Yeah.
brand new energy at Ozark for sure. Let's get to our top 10 rankings as we break this right now. Arkadelphia comes in as our number one team. Dardanelle comes in at two. Mills at three. Warren at four. Elkins at five. Southside at six. Monticello at seven. Hamburg at eight. Bauxite at nine. Clinton at 10. Just a little bit of thought that goes into that. Arkadelphia right now, top program, one of the top programs in the state in the 4A, especially. Darnell, as you said, really, I think you had said at one point 91 of 99 touchdowns coming back from last year.
Yeah.
Question is the offensive line. Can they replace those guys? He had a very salty offensive line last
Yeah.
year. Mills, uh, going to be a top contender there at the very end. Maybe a team that you could look at being in Little Rock. Warren is Warren. I think some people would argue as the top program in 4A. Over the last 5 years, you'll find that out later on. Elkins right up there with them. Southside, Kenny Simpson. I mean, he's just one of the top coaches in the state. Monticello is a team that I don't know that everybody's looking at. In fact, if you take Monticello and Clinton. Those are two that, we've got them in the top 10 where not everybody does. Monticello, Joseph Acalis is going to be a kid, one of the top players in 4A.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you right now. And then you've got Clinton, like I said, I think that they're looking at their best team in years right now, maybe their best team ever. And they're always very, very solid. So we like them in that 10 spot. There's other teams that could fell into that, but we felt like that was our top 10 kind of rounding through it. And let's just go into the 4A1 right now. Elkins right now has been the class of that conference there. And then you can throw into a bundle Gentry. You can throw in Gravette. You can throw
Lincoln.
in Prairie Grove. I think as those next three, Lincoln is probably falling behind them. And then I think that's probably your top five there. And you guys can give your opinions on how you kind of see that shaking out.
Yeah, I mean, this is a conference that last year was tough to pick. I feel like it's kind of the same way this year, where those last couple of spots are just kind of up for grabs, and you have to kind of say, okay, this team is giving me the when we talked to a lot of those teams in Fayetteville. You say this team is giving me a lot of good energy or vibes or whatever, and
Right.
you say, well, you know what, they might just have the slight edge that gets them in over in the playoffs or gets this seed in the playoffs over this other one. But uh, you know, you look at all those teams in Northwest Arkansas, they're all competing for some of the same transfers that are coming over from bigger schools and wanting playing time or competing for some of the same resources or whatever. So but you look at Gravette was one I want to talk about for sure because
Yeah.
they came in last year and surprised a lot of people. Started out really, really strong. I think they started out 9-0 before losing their last game to
Yep.
Elkins maybe, and
And that was a
Yeah.
good game too.
yeah,
35-21. Really
Watch
good game.
that one. That was actually closer than the score indicated.
yeah. And then Prairie Grove with Coach, is it Abshear? Is
Absher.
Danny
Yeah.
Absher?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm sure. That's
he's
how
the
you say
coach
it.
over there, and they run that uh, sort of flex bone sort of I form some I don't
Yeah.
know. You probably know from talking to him last year more about it than I do, but
They try to change it up a little bit, but
yeah,
for the most part, that's their base. They
yeah,
stay in the bone, and he's been there since like 1989, 1990, somewhere around that nature. Just a majorly good program. He's done a phenomenal job there. They're always right there in the hunt. I've got them as it's hard to say because I do like Gravette. But I think I'm going to take Prairie Grove as my two this year. Um, I've still got Elkins in the one spot until someone dethrones them. Head coach is just phenomenal. Zach Watson, he's gonna continue to keep them rolling. They seem to reload, like we talked about at the top here a little bit. Last year when we interviewed them and talked to them, we were like, okay, they think they might be better. We're like, how? You lose
Right.
Dizzy Dean, you lose Stone Dean, you lose DeMarcus Chairs. Um, or am I saying that right?
Just Sean
The
Cherry.
Sean Chairs,
Yep.
that's right. DeMarcus. I'm thinking DeMarcus Cousins for a second there. Anyways, too much basketball on my mind here lately, but with Coach at Arkansas,
Calipari.
Calipari. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, I still got to take Elkins as the one, and then I'm going to go Prairie Grove, Gravett. I really like, and then I mean after that, I mean you've got it's probably Gentry. Yeah, so I'm going to go Elkins, Prairie Grove, just ahead of Gravett. And then I'm going Gentry right behind them, and Green Forest maybe could get in there. They've done some things, got a little better last year, and then Lincoln's right there with them in that 5 spot. So what was that? Elkins, Prairie Grove, Gravett, Gentry, and then I'll officially say Lincoln for my 5.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said, but I'm going to deviate from that 2 and 3. I'm going to have Gravett ahead of Prairie Grove. I'm going to go Elkins, Gravett, Prairie Grove, uh, Gentry, and then Lincoln at the 5. But
Yeah, I mean
there's
that's
it's a
easy.
toss up
Yeah.
at the 2 and the 3, and then that 5 spot's going to be toss up as well.
Well, Gravett gave Elkins their best game last year. Basically, every other game in that conference was a blowout. Elkins won those games pretty easily. The Prairie Grove Gravett, the Prairie Grove Gentry, the Gentry Gravett games were better games there, but Gravett was the one that was able to give Elkins a better game. So we'll go. I'm going to go with Gravett myself in the 2 spot, Prairie Grove in the 3 spot, Gentry in the 4 spot. We'll go Lincoln in the 5 spot. There in the 4A1. The 4A2, you've got Mills seems to be where you got to start the conversation at. They're to me the top team in that conference, fairly t- right now head and shoulders above the rest. Elijah Moody is a kid that coming in as a sophomore, I think you're only going to see him get better and better and better. And then, it wouldn't surprise me at some point in his career if they win a state title there at Mills. They got to the semifinals last year. Elkins went down there and beat them in the semifinals, but you've got to think that they're going to be right there at the top.
Yeah, Mills is a Elijah Moody is kind of like Cadillac Ellison because you're like, holy cow, this guy still has 3 years of
Right.
football in him,
Hmm.
and he's, I mean, he's just he he put together a really good season. And like Cadillac Ellison, again, he's a dual threat guy. Um, he's got a great arm. Kind of came out of nowhere last year,
Yeah.
just like Ellison did. I think we kind of heard about Ellison a little bit before he got on the scene, but um, Mills is a team that always contending every year. They're a kind of a team that you kind of know is going to have good athletes every year. Um, but you got to look at this conference and you see Forest City, you see Little Rock Hall,
CAC.
CAC, Lone Oak. I will say about Lone Oak and Heber Springs as well. I will say about Lone Oak, Coach Bemberg, I think, was last offseason one of the best hires of the
Hmm.
offseason and was the uh, offensive coordinator at Little Rock Parkview for a while. I like
Hmm.
Coach Carmichael over at Heber Springs. We talked to him um, in Clinton. Forest City is an interesting case because they kind of had Coach Swinton kind of leave right in the middle of the offseason and go to Jacksonville. Um, and
I think a couple of their best went with him too.
Yep, yep. And then CAC with Coach Plumlee, it's going to be interesting to see how
Hmm.
they bounce back. They had a little bit of a down year last year, but I think that he's going to build a good foundation with them. He had a did a good job utilizing Jalen Dupree at Malvern and winning some state titles there. So um,
You got
Plumlee's
it.
a good coach over
yeah,
there for sure.
yeah.
You got some more
No,
going
you can
down
go
through.
ahead.
Okay. you got to go with Mills number one in the conference for sure. After that, I really do like CAC. I like Coach Plumley. His son is a sophomore quarterback, Jackson Plumley. I think that's good. They're going to work with him. I know that they have a senior receiver in Hudson Ritchie. I mean, I watched him light it up. It seems like forever ago now. I think he was one of those freshmen that played um, at wide receiver. They had so many, which a lot of those guys left after their head coach left. But I mean, they just Hudson Ritchie's got serious speed. I know when we interviewed him, they talked about he's put on some weight too to be a little more durable, things like that. I think that they were down last year, but I think they've righted the ship a lot. And I know Plumley, we've done a lot of games with Malvern over the years. He's going to get them right. And of course, they're going to have resources at CEC. They always do. So I've got them as my number two in that conference. After that, let me pull it back up. Who else is in there?
I think you got to look at Lone Oak and Heber
Lone
Springs
Oak,
there
yeah.
both.
Heber's on the way up. I like what they're doing
Hmm.
there. You talked about that a little bit. And then Lone Oak as well, same situation. Lone Oak's tradition rich. I mean, the Jackrabbits always have some good programs. So those are definitely the top four. I'm going to say CAC this year, Lone Oak, Heber Springs.
And then your fifth spot, I mean, you've got Hall,
That's right.
Riverview, right, Bald Knob. Of those three,
I'm
which
going Bald Knob.
okay, all right. Of the five that I'm going to give you here, I'm going to go with Mills as your top one. I think that's pretty cut and dried at this point. And then I think Lone Oak will be your two, CAC your three, Heber your four. Although I think that Heber can they can push up into that mix as well. They're very, very solid. I don't think Heber gets the recognition that they deserve. And then I'll throw in Hall as your five. I think that's your top five in that conference there. But again, you know what? Anything can happen there. Let's move on now to the 4A3. 4A3, I think similar to the 4A2 in some ways, maybe a little bit more solid. You've got Southside as the right now, I think, is the top program in that conference there. Coach Kenny Simpson. Simpson, he was at Searcy for just a few, maybe a year, maybe just one, and you could see the drop off there at Southside, and then they bounce right back up when he comes back in.
Oh,
And I mean, just a very detail oriented coach. I mean, does a great job over there. Um, and then you've got Pocahontas, I think is a very solid number two there in that conference. Well, I say that actually. Let me back up. Highland is in that as well. I think Highland's right
yeah.
up there at the top as well. Pocahontas as well. That's your top three. I've heard a lot of good things about Gosnell. Gosnell is a team right now that could come up and surprise this year. Um, Number four in that conference to me, probably Blytheville
Mm,
right there. And then, you know what? Let's throw caution to the wind here. Cave City Cavemen coming in at number five with Tommy Cody
okay.
as their new head
Yeah.
coach there. I think I just Tommy Cody. I say this a lot. I feel like I touch on it a lot. Guy just resurrect programs. He does a great job over there. Wherever he goes, and he left DeWitt, goes to Cave City. He'll get those guys going in the right direction. And I think in this conference, you've got, Truman's a possibility. You've got West Side as well. I mean, I think that there's a way to jump into that top five. Cave City's been tough, and when I say it's been tough for them for a while, but I like Cave City maybe to come in and maybe come into that top five.
Yeah, I like Southside at the top of this conference for sure. I like Highland as a two. I mean, you look at Southside, I think they're just kind of head and shoulders above everybody, but they did get a fight from Highland last year for sure.
Yes. Oh yeah.
So,
I
but
th- I think that's one of those that you could look at those two right there. That was a conference title game last year. I think the same thing for them this year, except it goes to Highland. So you could really look at those two as being again one and two, and whoever wins that game would be the one.
yep, and I like Southside as the one over Highland. I know Highland had a lot coming back last year. I'm not sure how much more they bring back this year, but I do know that Owen McLaughlin, an electric running back,
Yes.
returns for Southside this year. And then I like Blytheville as the three. I know they have their new coach, Rod Stinson, coming over. I think he's going to do a good job over at Blytheville. I like them as the three. Gosnell, I think, would be a solid 4. Um, and I think that then at the 5, I would have to say Pocahontas because that's just kind of where they kind of land in that, in my opinion. And I do think that it's completely possible for Tommy Cody and Cave City to sneak in there as well because he's like you said, he's a program resurrector and did it at DeWitt and um, was a coach at Atkins for a while and did a solid job there as well. And so it just depends on what he's working with this year. It might take him year 2 or year 3, and then he'll get into it. But I think he could do some things this year that surprise some people over at Cave City.
Yes, sir. I like Southside. I agree with both of you. I do think they're the top. I think Highland's right there behind them after that. I'm going to go Pocahontas at 3. Um, and then I'll go Blytheville at 4, Cave City. I agree. I think we've all had them at 5. It wouldn't shock me because that's what Coach Cody does.
Now let's get on to the 4A4 here. I think this is a conference that we're pretty familiar with over in our area, as they actually are in our area.
Yep.
Um, we've got Dardanelle, you've got Mena, you've got Pottsville, you've got Ozark, Waldron, Lamar, and Dover. Those are your teams in the 4A4 there. Dardanelle being as high as they are, we feel like Dardanelle's got a shot at being that top spot, or is obviously the odds-on favorite. But this conference over the last 3 years has been a conference that 2 through 6 has been just a jumble.
Yes.
And in fact, it was 2 years ago that Pottsville went from either being the number one seed or missing the playoffs
Yeah.
altogether because of a
Tiebreakers.
Bauxite. Yeah, I think Bauxite beat CAC. And of course, the players are a little different, but there's still a lot of the same players in that mix. So, anyway, with that being said, let's get to the 4A4 and get some of your thoughts.
Yeah, so Dardanelle is definitely the runaway favorite, and it hasn't always been that way for Dardanelle. Like you said, this conference has been pretty competitive. But last year, Mina was kind of a surprise team in this conference. Coach
Mhm.
Craig Bentley over there has done a fantastic job building that program into a winning culture. And then you look at Ozark, new head coach Josh Watson coming over. They have invested a lot into making sure that he's comfortable over there at Ozark and getting him what he needs. And then you have Lamar, who is always a contender every year. They do lose. Caleb Green was their quarterback last year, right? They said they're going to transition kind
Yep.
of more of a spread to back to a run heavy offense, and so
Double wing.
double wing kind of thing. So um, it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust to that this year after playing spread with their quarterback they had last year. And then Clinton with Coach Dufran is going to be really good. They're going to be a run heavy team as well, just like Pottsville and Lamar. And they're going to just try to be more physical and out physical everybody. And they're really excited about their team. We have them in our top 10 because we feel like they bring back a lot. This could be one of the best teams that they've had in a number of years over at Clinton. Waldron, I know Duran is very high on their coach, so I'll let him talk about Waldron a little bit. And then Pottsville with Coach Brian Rust, right?
Mhm.
He's he's always got them in the playoff mix too. They've just got to find some consistency and not turn the ball over, which is
Right.
what I've been told was their big problem last year. And then Dover having Will Cox go lead for Two Rivers, and they brought in Mark King. He's a guy that had a lot of success at Foreman, had a lot of success at Magnolia as well, running his flexbone offense. And, that's from what you've told me, that's kind of what Dover wants to run anyway. And so,
Well, I think it fits them the best, but
yeah,
I'll let you finish
yeah.
first and we'll get into that.
And so, and he could have probably made it much deeper in the playoffs had he not run into some Kevin Kelly
Yeah.
Pulaski Academy teams over at Magnolia
Yeah.
in the 5A back whenever Pulaski Academy played 5A football and Coach Kelly was still there. So it's going to be interesting to see how Dover changes their offense this year under Mark King from where Will Cox had it. It's going to be interesting to see how Coach Josh Watson adjusts things over at Ozark. Creed Vega he's gonna have a big senior year at Dardanelle. Clinton is going to have a great year. Lamar is going to adjust their offense. I mean, there's a lot of things in this conference that you can get excited about for sure.
I think the top of the conference is probably the seriously most legit state title contender that it's been in a while, and I'm mostly talking about Dardanelle there. I'll start with them. One of the things that we've worried about with Dardanelle a little bit is what's the line's going to look like. The offensive line I'm talking about. They do return a couple starters. Patton Davis is a 6'2", 240-pound guard. Charlie Poteet is a center. I think he might have played guard last year. He's going to play center. They've got a guy that played defense only last year, and Gabe Burns. It's a big guy, 6'1", 315, kind of a leader type player for them. He's looking to play some tackle for them. And then they've got a guy named Jake Sandlin that I'm trying to remember. Yeah, he got hurt last year. He started like the first 4 or 5 games and then had a knee injury, so he's back. So that really makes you feel a lot better once you see that they've got 3 guys that played a lot. Well, 2 that have played a lot, and they've got another couple in there that have gotten some snaps, and then the one moving over that's one of their better athletes playing tackle. It looks like left tackle possibly or right tackle. Not sure on that, but so that's going to help them out a lot. But Creed Vega is a guy that I've known Phil, the head coach, Phil Vega, my whole life. I mean, he's 2 years older than me in school. He was a phenomenal athlete, all state. Played at Arkansas Tech for 4 years. Was a really good corner in college, and you know, I'm trying to think of Creed's brother that just graduated a couple years ago. Just talented kids.
Hmm.
Of course, the mom, Crystal Compton, which is Crystal Vega, she's was a big time basketball player. She's got a niece actually that's getting major offers right now. Plays for I think it's Fort Smith Southside, North Side or South Side, and just athletic family. And Creed got it from both sides. And he's 6'2", 220. Just recently accepted an offer from Air Force. He threw for like I want to say I know it was over 1,000 yards last year, and he ran for over 1,000 as well. I mean, he's just a dual threat guy. And on defense, I think he had like 4 interceptions, 3 or 4 interceptions. Can do a little bit of everything. They've got some running backs and stuff. Rod Chatton's a guy we don't talk about enough. Phenomenal basketball player, but he's a guy you line up out in the X receiver or
Yep.
wherever flanker positions, and I mean, he's a mismatch every time. He's
Thousand
six
yard
four,
guy
six
last year.
five, exactly, and can just go up and get it. He's a safety valve for Creed when things break down. Um, and then we'll talk about Clinton a little bit. So Clinton might have their most talented team. They got 9 back on offense. They've got just I mean they run top of a bone top offense. They've got a bunch of wing backs, slot back guys. Brody Dufresne looks like I think that's the quarterback. That's the coach's son. And then you've got all conference running back Rylan Jones coming back, Briar Cullum, Caleb McCarver, Harold McNabb, Sam Standridge is a big time receiver for them. He's another big guy, kind of like Rod Chatton for Dardanelle. He's 6'4", 185. So when they need to throw it, he's a guy they can go up. They can go up and get it. And then we'll go down the list here. Mina, 10-2 last year. They got 4 back on offense, 7 back on defense, basically. Um, I mean, they've done a really good job over there. I mean, it was coming on a little bit if you remember 3 or 4 years ago. Their facilities have gotten better, things like that, and then they kind of took a step back for a second, and then all of a sudden last year, boom, 10-win season. Only had a couple losses that were. I mean, I think it was Dardanelle, and I want to say in the playoffs they might have been Arkadelphia. I'm not
I
sure.
think Mina beat them. So Mina was 9-0 coming into that game against Dardanelle, and that was a
Right.
conference title game. But that was it.
Was
They
it
finished
Arkadelphia that beat them in the playoffs? I can't.
beat Clinton,
No, Mina.
Mina. Boy, I'd have to look.
I can't remember whoever it was. It was like 2
Yeah,
big time contenders, like deep playoff teams. Might have been Elkins. I'm not sure, but
Elkins
um,
was it.
okay.
That
So
was.
so Mina 10-2, and they returned some off that team. They're going to be right there in the mix for that second spot with Clinton. And then I'm super high on Ozark. I mean Ozark's a tradition rich program. Last year they go 4-7, which is not a typical Ozark team. Of course, Cody Wilbanks is an outstanding quarterback. He got hurt, was banged up off and on, missed games. That hurt him. I don't think they go 4-7 if he's healthy all year. But Coach Watson coming over from Salem, Josh Watson, he's stepped into a lot of talent. 9-1 junior high team. I think the last 3 junior high teams have went like 9-1, 9-1, maybe
They're
10-0,
they're always
always like
solid in
that.
junior high. Yeah.
So he's one thing that got me really excited talking to him in our interview was he's really excited about a sophomore quarterback named John Skolarski, 5'10", 155, um, like a serious burner, 4'5", 4'4", maybe
Yeah.
even top kid.
Let me
He
add
he
something to
talks to
that.
me about him as being maybe the fastest kid he's ever seen
So I've never seen him
coached.
on the football field, but I'm going to tell you, the kid's a dog on the basketball court.
Hmm.
He played minutes for that Ozark team as the season went on, and I'm talking about as a ninth grader moved up,
Right.
and I mean really come in and made a difference. So you're talking about him at the quarterback position. He could be something really, really good for Ozark.
Yep. 14 starters back off of that team. New coach, new energy coming into the building. I'm really excited about them. They've got the Rawson brothers, Caden and Colton. Both those guys are going to do a lot of things. Receivers, they play defense as well. And in Waldron, Coach Maholan came under the Coach Cody over at DeWitt. Came to Waldron last year. This is going to be his second year. He's got some good stuff there, some good players to work with. They only win 2 games last year. They beat Ozark. It was a huge upset early in the year. But Eli Cluthe I think he's a 3-year starter at quarterback. He's a fullback kind of build. I mean, he's more of a they spread you out and they run it. He like to get downhill. He's a short yardage guy that he's like that Tim Tebow type quarterback. That they prefer to run it, but he can throw the ball, throws it pretty good. And he's got a guy named Branson Mick at receiver, who was like a long jump, triple jump indoor state champ this year. 6'2", 180, 4'5" ish, 4'4" maybe speed. I mean, can really stretch the defense. And they've got a bunch of running backs: Jackson Brown, Jake Roberson, some of the other guys. They got some. Roberson is actually Jackson Brown's brother, and they both play defense as well. A lot of their guys go 2 ways, so they're going to be one of those teams that, injury wise, they got to really stay healthy if they want to continue to climb the ladder and improve. I think they were winless the year before he went there,
Yeah.
and they got 2 last year and trying to improve on it. Dover towards the bottom of the conference. Of course, Dover's been on really hard times for a while. Um, I do love the hire, Mark King. He was at Parker's Chapel, turned him around. He turned Foreman around. I believe he won state with Foreman. Had some great years at Magnolia, and the offense is perfect for them. Most years, Dover has a lot of size, good linemen. Usually a strong team that competes well with state weightlifting competitions, stuff like that. Those numbers have kind of fallen off over the last few years. Coach Cox had been there for 5 seasons, and he was making some strides in the weight room for sure. Dover's a team that every once in a while they'll have 3 or 4 really good skill guys in one class, but usually there's a couple. But if you get 3 or 4 in a row, things will roll for you. And I definitely think the flexible type offense, 3 yards, a cloud of dust, um, get some misdirection going. If you don't have those skill guys, a lot of times the spread's really tough to run because you don't have enough speed running those jet sweeps and all those types of things to really draw a defense out. So get more quick hitters, misdirection, things like that. I think is really going to bode well for them. The thing about Dover fans, if you're watching the class that graduated last year, and I've been telling everybody this, they were pretty talented, and they only win 2 games. They did get their first conference win, and it was over Waldron last year, 26-22, in I mean at least 5-6 years. So that was big, but they lost their most talented class in a long time. Um, they should have won more games. They didn't for whatever reasons. So if Coach King comes in and wins 2 this year, I mean it's actually a lot more impressive than it looks because um, the cupboard's not real. There's not a lot in the cupboard right now. They do have some guys. Matthew Krantz, good basketball player. He's looks like he's going to play quarterback. They like him. Coach King talked about him. Jacob Glasspool is a slot back wide receiver top. Jacob Robertson, I should say. Sailor Smith, some other guys are going to play in that wing back kind of slot back. How they use them in the bone. Those type of guys should help them a lot. Jordan Peters is a freshman. They looking to start at on the line, 6'1", 235. Trying to find some size and spots there. So we'll see how that goes. But I really think that if they win 2 or 3 this year, that's really impressive because they did lose a really talented senior class last year. Give him 2 or 3 years, and we'll see how it looks. But So that's about all I've got for 4A.
So give me your
Four.
5 for 4A4.
I will go Dardanelle at the top for sure. I'm I want to go Clinton really badly as the number 2 spot. I probably will. I'm really high on Ozark and Coach Watson and the talent he just stepped into. Um, and then you got Mina in there too. I mean, it's hard to go against a 10-2 team that's got about 11 starters back. I'm gonna go Dardanelle. I'm gonna go Clinton, but they better be watching out because Ozark's gonna be right there with them. And then I'll go Mina after that. And we're going 4,
5.
5. That's right.
Yep.
Is there someone I'm forgetting?
Pottsville,
Pottsville.
Pottsville and
I'm gonna go.
Lamar. Yep.
I'm gonna go Waldron in Pottsville.
You gonna leave Lamar out?
Oh, yeah, I know. Um, I like what Coach Jones is doing. I like how they're going back to what he does, running the ball. His son's going to be the quarterback. Um, Kaz Krotz, really good running back. He's big. He's 6'3", legit 6'3". Really good basketball player for him, about 200 pounds. He's a halfback. In that technically the fullback plays for them in that double wing they like to run. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go Lamar. I've kind of forgot them when I was listening, so I'm gonna go Dardanelle, Clinton, Ozark, Lamar. No, Mina, then Lamar. So
Okay.
Lamar get my
Have
5
you
spot.
picked your 5? All
No,
right.
I would go Dardanelle, Clinton, Mina, Ozark, and then Lamar.
Okay.
Okay. I am gonna go Dardanelle, Clinton, Ozark, Lamar, and then I'm gonna go Pottsville as the 5th spot. I think that Mina's lost a lot. I also think that again, when you jumble this up,
Mm,
you put 4 through 6 in there,
right.
they can fall in any spot. I will say, watch out for Lamar to jump up maybe past Ozark just because of the newness of the system.
Mm.
I think Lamar is a pretty good football team this year. I do.
Oh,
I think they're
they're
always
always
solid.
hard nosed and physical, and they kind of got away from what they like to do last year. And I think it's going to bode well for them going back to what they know.
Chemistry, the
Right.
chemistry in the locker room is going to be better for Lamar this year. And Coach Jones's son is going to be in there at quarterback, and I just feel like that when it comes down to it, what better situation can you have as coach than having your son play quarterback? You know what I mean? He knows the system. He's seen the
Right.
system his whole life. I
Right.
mean that situation will be good for them.
And it'll be interesting. To see. They've got a lot of athletes on the basketball side. They're always one of the favorites
Yeah,
here lately to win state in basketball and 4A and, well, I guess it's 3A in basketball.
yeah.
But they, I, I haven't heard for sure if trying to think of his name. The
Kendrick Carr.
Yeah, Kendrick Carr. He was a big time receiver for him
Yeah.
last year. I'm not sure if he's going to play this season or not. But if he does, I mean, he's a mismatch every time he's out there lined up. So that'll help them as well.
All right, let's move on to the 4A7 here, and it's a monster of a conference. You've got usually state title contender 2 or 3 coming out of that conference. And this year's really no different. Arkadelphia comes in at the top right now. They're our number 1 team in the state in 4A right now. They're really hard. They're
Loaded.
really tough, really
Hmm.
loaded right now. And then, Nashville and Malvern right now usually seem to be fighting it out for the 2 and 3 spots. That's usual, not this necessarily every year. Bauxite is a team that is interesting to me because Bauxite, came in with a lot of hype last year, but just
A lot of injuries.
absolutely injury riddled. I mean, if there ever was a team that you could say was injury riddled, it would have been that team right there. So anyway, with that being said, the 4A7 once again looks loaded, and it's going to be a battle there in that conference.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you've got Malvern there, a traditional power who's been good, or at least up there since Coach Plumley was there with Dupree. I know last year Bishop Allen, Cedric Allen, but everybody calls him Bishop Allen. So
Hmm.
Bishop Allen was there last year. He transferred to Hot Springs. That's a huge loss for them to not have him at quarterback
Yep.
anymore. Um, to me, Bauxite is the favorite in this conference, at least in my book. I know that a lot of people are high on. Sorry, Arkadelphia's in this conference, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
Arkadelphia would be the favorite. Bauxite would be number two. I just had a don't know where that came from, but Arkadelphia I forgot was in this conference for a second, so they would be the favorite for sure. But Bauxite would be number two. But this is a tough conference, especially if Coach Cheshire can get things going at Nashville, which people seem to have a high opinion of that program right now since he's taken over. They had a little bit of instability at at head coach, but getting him in there, who's a Nashville guy who
Right.
is passionate about that program and knows the kind of football that they want to play there,
Yeah, and the
that's going to be a
expectations.
yeah, that's going to be a big advantage to them. Um, Arkadelphia coming in, returning Bryson McCoy at quarterback is going to be huge for them. Box size brings in Evan Goodwin at offensive tackle, and Eli Perry being back at quarterback, he can be a really good playmaker. And then you have, you lose Marcus Wimberly off, who was Oklahoma signee, SEC football player, but you add, uh, like I said, you add Evan Goodwin, who's a basic who could have been an SEC football player had he decided to go there, but ended up going to signing with SMU or committing to SMU. I'm not sure if he's signed yet or not, but and then you have Ashdown. I know we talked to Ashdown at our Hot Springs site, and
Hmm.
we were all impressed with their coach, Coach McCaslin. Uh, he's doing a good job building that program over there. Fountain Lake had some playmakers last year. Cooper Buss is their quarterback, and he put up some really good numbers last year. Harmony Grove heard some people from their fan base talking about how they're excited about their season this year. But to me, Arkadelphia, Nashville, Bauxite, those three are going to be right there, close to each other. Probably those are the top three in the conference. I think Arkadelphia, Bauxite, Nashville in that order would be the top three, and then I'll talk about a little bit more of the top five once we get around to that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go with Arkadelphia. Obviously, Trey Shucker done a great job over there. Braxton McCoy, quarterback, 66% completion last year, over 3,000 yards, 46 touchdowns. I mean, just insane numbers. He's got so many weapons. I mean, running back Blake Moody. They just got so many guys that are like 300, 400 yards. And that just shows you like how deep they are. Moody's one of them. Caden Whitaker's another one. He's just a junior. He's like 6'1", almost 200 pounds. Had like 350 yards, 4 touchdowns last year. Quintavious Morris is like a defensive specialist for him. He plays like a goal line situation. Last year he carried the ball 9 times, had 5 touchdowns
Wow.
on 9 carries. And then they're loaded out at receiver as well. Maddox Finley is another guy that's right at 200 pounds, 6 foot, had over right almost 500 yards last year, 7 touchdowns. And then their headliner, Orion Roberts, 5'10", 180, 4.4 speed, 770 yards, 13 touchdowns last year. And then they've got guys that can throw at you in the slot, like a Cam Archer. It's jukey, like one of those jitterbug tops. It's hard to guard in a phone booth. And then over on the defensive side, they've got defensive ends like Xavion Williams, who's 6'2", 200, 4.6 speed. I mean, we're talking multiple Division two and some Division one guys mixed in there as well. So right now, having said all that, Dardanelle and them was a very close game last year. Um, their game against Elkins until late in the fourth quarter
Hmm.
was a one-score game. They can be beat, but man, when you look at them on paper, I mean, it's the defending champs, and they've got another year of experience. It's very hard to pick anybody over them. I do think Dardanelle has the best opportunity this year, but I'm going Arkadelphia in this conference for sure. I'm big on Malvern. They got like 14 starters back. I know the quarterback left, but John Fogelman, he'd been there before Plumlee. He's like been there for several years, and he's they went 11-2 last year, and their losses were both very close. Um, so they got some guys. Kyler Wright's a big time weapon for them. Um, Jabari Jacobs, running back, he's coming back after almost 500 yards last year, and Tavian Clegg, another guy that had over 1,000 yards, 14 touchdowns last year. He's an electric runner, 4.5, 4.4, maybe even speed. So they got a lot of weapons. Bauxite, we what's the offensive lineman's name again?
Evan Goodwin.
Yeah, Goodwin. He's just a massive human being. He's going to open the way. Elijah Perry, coach's son. I mean, been seems like he's been a quarterback for 10 years now. But I think is he a senior now or is he just a
I think
junior?
he's
Because
just
he
a
He's
started
senior.
as a freshman.
senior now.
So
Yep.
I mean he's going to have them clicking and doing some really good things. So it's hard to pick against them. And then who else do we have? There's another one in there that you mentioned in your
Nashville.
top four, Nashville, with Coach Cheshire. He's like we were talking about. He knows what to expect at Nashville. They expect state championships, conference championships, state
Yep.
championships. Yeah, they'll let you have maybe if you only have one state championship every 3 or 4 years, you're okay. But you need but 3 or 4 years, that's saying something. You know what I mean? And I don't even know if you're okay if you don't win more than that. I mean, he knows the expectations there. He left a great situation that he built at Murfreesboro. I think he's definitely going to get them turned around quickly here.
I agree with you. I think Brad Cheshire's one of the very best in the state of Arkansas. I think that there is a lot of talent
Yeah.
and a big jump in that conference in the 4A7. I like right now. I like Arkadelphia at the top.
Hmm.
Um, Malvern and Bauxite will battle it out for second place, in my opinion.
Right.
The winner of that game ends up getting the 2 seed. Nashville comes in behind those guys, not because they're bad, but because it is a very, very tough place to play in the 4A7. And then I think I would go with Ashdown as the 5 seed out of that. And when I say that, I'm going to say right now, as a 5 seed coming out of that conference, if you're a 2 seed in the first round of the playoffs out of a weak conference, Ashdown will beat them.
Yeah, that's true. I
Yeah.
agree. That's basically my top five as well. It's I could switch Malvern, Nashville, and the other one in there that we were talking about is the
Bauxite.
Yeah,
Bauxite. Those it's going to come down to who wins those games head to head.
Yeah.
I want to pick Bauxite there, but I do like what Malvern has a lot of talent coming back, and I do think they have a really good coach there as well. Of course, they've all got good coaches. You can't, like we talked about
right.
earlier in the state of Arkansas, it's there's very rarely do you have just a coach that you can outcoach anymore. Um, so, but I'm basically the same way with my top five. Ashdown coming in at the 5 spot.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say Arkadelphia. I'm really high on Bauxite this year. I say Arkadelphia, Bauxite, Malvern, and then Nashville. Um, and then I would put Ashdown at the five spot as well, just because I like what Coach McCaslin's doing over there. They've always got good athletes. I know they had Shamar Easter there a few years ago, who
Hmm.
ended up playing for the Razorbacks. So they've always got some good players out there. I know that I believe whenever we talked to him in Hot Springs, talked about their numbers being a little bit down, and so that might be an issue for them. But they just gotta if they can figure out how to utilize those players to the best of their ability, I think they'll be at the five for sure.
All right, and finally, we're going to move to the 4A8, and the 4A8 usually is dominated by the Warren Lumberjacks. Warren Lumberjacks have been one of the very top programs in the state, but also in the 4A. They definitely have been at the very top there. Um, Surprisingly enough for Warren, though, it's been over 5 years. In fact, I don't even know how long it's been since they won a state championship over there. I would say probably within 6 or 7, but haven't won a state championship. In fact, don't even have an appearance in Little Rock since 2020. So they're trying to change that this year. Again, they've been the head of the class there at the 4A8. I think that the teams that really kind of pushing in that this year will be Monticello, also Hamburg, and possibly Stuttgart. Those are three that I look at as possibilities to maybe try to take down Warren.
Yeah, looking at this conference, you have DeWitt, Monticello, Hamburg, Star City, Stuttgart, Helena Central, Crossit, and then of course Warren. Um, to me, Star City is a little bit of an X factor. They started out hot last year, but they lose a bit of talent that they had last year that
Hmm.
really came in and helped them build that. They also lost their coach, had to make a quick switch at coach. Not that Coach Matt Garriott won't do a good job there. I think he will, and he'll figure out how to win there because they have a good culture there at Star City. But it's just going to be different. And then DeWitt brings in Coach Jason Hathcock, who turned around Mineral Springs. They always had a lot of talent, and then he kind of had he had that opportunity with Katrevion Thomas and with all those guys that he was the headliner, Jace
Mm-hmm.
Emerson and all them, and at Mineral Springs, and couldn't put it together. So he's going to have a guy who's probably just as talented as Katrevion Thomas in Corey Graham as his workhorse running back this year, and so we'll see what they're able to put together. If Monticello and Coach Randy Harvey, who we talked to at our Camden site, Duran was the one who did that interview, so he might be able to give more insight on Monticello than I can. But I think they're going to have a good year. They're going to face an early test playing Fordyce to open the season, and then
Yeah, we're going to be there for that one.
yep,
So you want to get an early look at that 4A8. That's a good
yep,
way to do it.
and then Hamburg. I talked to Coach Blake Johnson, or maybe were you the one that talked to Blake Johnson from Hamburg, or was that me?
That was you.
It was me. So, uh, they have a good foundation over there.
Yeah,
They had a good year
I
last
like
year.
them.
Yeah,
I think they're
yeah.
really going to have a good year.
Nikel Lewis is a guy who put up fantastic numbers last
Yep.
year for Hamburg, and he's bound for a better season this year. Stuttgart with Coach Josh Price and the quarterback Kane Price, who I think is
Yeah.
very, very talented player. Just missed my top 10 players in 4A lists that I did. Um, he's going to have a good year. Next year he'll definitely be on that list. Um, and then you have Crossit and Helena Central. Helena Central, good basketball team last year. Always have good athletic players. Crosset's a team that to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about, but they could be in the mix in this conference. But to me, Warren is definitely the runaway favorite. I think Monticello could give him a fight. Hamburg could definitely give him a fight. Stuttgart will give him a fight, but and maybe DeWitt, if Corey Graham has a good game, could give him a fight, and if they're on their A game. But Warren, to me, bringing back their quarterback this year is going to be a big thing for them, even though they lose Antonio Jordan to the
They
Razorbacks.
always have
But
receivers down there,
yeah,
right?
they always it's just reload for them. It's just
Yeah.
reload for them. Traylon Burks, Antonio Jordan, they find him.
Right.
They find one. They always find one.
Well, yeah, I agree. And Jackson Denton didn't play last year. He's gonna be back, and he was phenomenal as a ninth grader or 10th grader. I'm trying to remember. I know he was one of our.
Ninth grader.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He was one of our newcomers of the year that year. Did he win it? I think he did, or was he runner up?
I think he was runner up.
Um, it might have been Corey Graham that won it that
I
year.
think it was.
So, Denton is definitely something you build around for sure. Uh, DeWitt, we're talking about Corey Graham over there. Even though they got a new coaching situation, they lost a few seniors, but one of the best athletes in the state. I mean, they're definitely going to be able to do some things with him. I really like Hamburg. You were able to interview him. We talked to him. I was able to talk to him on the side a little bit that day. I think they did some good things last year. They beat some good teams. They unfortunately, if I remember correctly, they had to play their own conference again when they got in the playoffs, and which you don't want to have to do because it's very talented. Um, if I remember correctly, I think it was Monticello,
It was
maybe. Yeah.
Monticello. We were
Okay.
there at that game.
Well, yeah, we had 2 nights. I was somewhere
Yep.
else. So and then Monticello, obviously the headliner right now. I mean, I really love what their coach is doing. Um, Talented guys, Joseph Aquiles. I mean, I'm not sure if I said that right, but he's one of the better running backs in the state. He's very talented. I've got them at the top. I've got Stuttgart. I'm going to put Hamburg second. Actually, I'm going to go. I'm going to go Monticello, Hamburg, Warren,
Oh,
and then Stuttgart, DeWitt, and cross it on the outside looking in.
Well,
DeWitt.
how about the running backs in this conference?
right.
You have Corey Graham, Nikel
Mm-hmm.
Lewis, Joseph Aquiles. I mean, you just every week you're having to place another great running back. It's just a tough conference.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it has been for years. I mean, the athletes down there are unbelievable. I mean, a team like Star City, if you put Star City in another conference, they're a perennial playoff team. But Star City in this conference is a spot playoff team a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
They're every other year, every 2 or 3 years they're in it, but they're always good. Every year they're always good. And if you look at Star City in the non-conference, they usually win most of their non-conference games, and then they get into the gauntlet of the conference here, which is just tough. But if I had to pick my five out of this conference, I'm going to go Warren at the top, Monticello at the two, Hamburg at the three.
Really?
Um,
Wow.
Stuttgart at the 4. What's up?
I was, I'm surprised you took Warren over Monticello, but
I'm big
I
on
mean,
Monticello, but
normally Warren is that's the easy pick right off
right,
the bat.
that's
But
right. And I will say for Monticello, they do play Warren at home. That's a big deal. I think the task of having to go to Warren and win a conference game is very, very tough there. So, anyway, I will take Warren, Monticello, Hamburg, Stuttgart as my 4. And then your 5, I guess, I think you got to go with DeWitt. Um, because Corey Graham is so good, I think that it's hard to go wrong with him. Star City's probably going to be in the mix as well. And then Helen and Cross will probably bring up the rear end on the conference.
I'm pretty big on Warren. I mean, last year I have been. I'm saying for years. Of course, they had Jordan and had some other guys
Yeah,
that are gone off that team, and Denton wasn't there that night. But they only lost. Their only losses when they were big losses. But if they don't have the injuries and have to get the quarterback ready the way they did, when they were kind of depending on Jackson to
sure.
be the man, Jackson didn't. I think that hurt them in the Elkins game. But at halftime of that game, it was still tight. And then we know the second half Elkins ran away with it, but then they lose to Mills in the semis and or deep in the playoffs there. Let me see here. Looks like third round, yeah. So 47-40, and we know how
Right.
good Mills was. So they could do a lot of things. I do think it's going to hurt them because Jordan was so good for them last year, which they're going to have guys now. I don't think they have a 6'6" guy that can run a 4.5 just lined
Right.
up every week.
Well, Cam Burks is a guy that they're going to have out there.
That's true. He's a really good one. So I said Hamburger too. Them and Warren, that's a toss up for me. I do like Hamburg. I do think they're going to be improved, but I am going to go Monticello, and then I got Hamburger and Warren right there behind them.
Okay.
It's going to be close.
The Warren faithful are going to be up in arms about that one.
Oh yeah,
I like Warren at 1. I like Monticello at 2. I think Aquiles is just a game breaker at running back, and I
right.
don't think he gets enough credit for being as good as he is, to be honest. Um,
He will by the end of the year.
yeah,
He will. He's a junior this year,
yeah,
so he will.
and I think that I'll put Hamburg at that 3 spot, and then I'll put Stuttgart at 4 and DeWitt at 5. I think that Stuttgart with Kane Price is going to have their identity pretty early. And that's coach's son. He's going to know that offense inside and out. He's going to have his dad in his ear about it at dinner time. So
Right.
it's going to be, he's going to have it down to a T. And then with DeWitt, I do think there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment with Coach Hathcock coming in and doing something way different than Tommy Cody did. I remember when we called that game last year, they were a true multiple offense. I mean, they hardly stayed in a single formation in 2 plays in a row. So I like DeWitt and Corey Graham this year to make the playoffs, but I don't think that they're going to be a contender just yet. I think next year when Corey Graham's a senior, that might be a big difference maker. But this year, new coach might be a little bit of a struggle to start out.
Last year, Warren beats Monticello by 9 points, and I think Monticello's better than they were
They
last
very
year,
well
and
could
I
be.
think Warren's not as good as they were last
That,
year.
I mean, that's
But Jackson Denton could be the X factor, and they might end up being better because it's really going to help them a lot. And like we talked about Burks, he's going to be out of
yeah.
receiver. Who knows? Maybe running back a little as well.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys. So let's give our state championship picks right now. I think that Arkadelphia is, at least in my mind right now, until they're knocked off. I will say this: I think that just like any of these other teams that are kind of trying to make their way back and win it, I think that that is a very tall task
Right.
every year. No matter who it is, it's a tall task unless you're just head and shoulders above everybody else. And Arkadelphia might very well be that this year. And so I am going to go with Arkadelphia. Dardanelle is a question mark to me only because how good will their offensive line be? If it's good, I think that Creed Vega is one of the very underrated players in the
Right.
state of Arkansas. You said that he threw for 1,000 and passed or run for 1,000. He actually threw for 2,000,
Yeah.
and I think he run for
I
1,500.
had that wrote down, but I couldn't remember, so I didn't want to
Yeah, in
say
fact, I
that. But I
think the
think it
numbers
was
were.
2,000.
I think he was like right at
He
like
he rushed for
4,000.
1,500, a little
Yeah,
over
I
1,500.
think he was right at 4,000 of total offense
Wow.
for last year. So
Yeah, and he also had at least 3 interceptions on defense, maybe 4.
right,
Um, So go ahead and finish out your
Well,
thoughts on
that's my thought with Dardanelle as a possibility there. Of
Mills.
course, you've Mills, Warren, Elkins, throw any of those guys in there, and I think you've got an opportunity. And again, one of the teams that we're talking about, Monticello, right now, we're pretty high on those guys. Could they make a run if they're able to win the 4A8, as you're saying? Then yes, they could.
Yes, exactly. And that's the one thing about the 48 is I feel like because y'all have got we've got Hamburg in our rankings there at 8, Monticello at 7, Warren at 4, and Arkadelphia at 1. That's all out of the same
Yeah. Well,
conference.
Arkadelphia
Oh,
is
I'm
the
sorry.
7.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
apologize. But those other three are.
Yes.
Um, and then, we're leaving off the list Stuttgart. It's really good. Stuttgart could easily be 9 or 10 where Bauxite and Clinton are. They're right there in that mix. Um, it might be the most top heavy when it comes to legit teams that are semifinal top teams.
Right.
I mean, you got 4 teams there, 3 for sure in Warren, Monticello, and Hamburg this year, with Stuttgart kind of right there with Hamburg that could easily go 2-3 rounds into the playoffs and further. So I mean, it's going to be fun to see how it all shakes out, but um, I don't know. I don't know if I should. Earlier, I might have spoke out. I kind of wasn't thinking about Warren when I said that, but Hamburg is going to be better this year. It's going to be a good one. It's to me, like I said, Jackson Denton's going to be kind of the key. How much better does he make that offense this year? Um, Even though they lost some big time weapons, so at Warren. So it, Monticello, though, I do have them as my pick to upset Warren this year. I think they've improved, and it's going to be really fun to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, I like Mills a lot this year, but I wouldn't pick
Hmm.
them to win state. I just think that Elijah Moody, by the time he's done, I think he'll have a state championship. He's got 3 years to do it. I think he'll win it one year, and but I don't think it'll be this year. I like Arkadelphia as well. I know it's kind of the cookie cutter pick, but it is what it is. They bring back their quarterback who blew it up last year, just absolutely dominated. 46 touchdown passes is not anything to sneeze at. So, you bring back a guy like that, and then Creed Vega is going to be explosive at Dardanelle too. But Dardanelle, like you said, they've got some line of scrimmage problems, and a lot of times in every at every level of football, uh, having a good line of scrimmage wins you a lot of football games. And so I think that if they get that established this year, they can absolutely do it. But I think that I would have to pick Arkadelphia right now if I had to put money on it. And then I really like Boxside as a dark horse team. Getting Evan Goodwin to come over and play for them, I think is a big, big piece for them. And then having Eli Perry come back from injury, and I think they get more guys back from injury too than just Eli Perry. But getting Evan Goodwin and Eli Perry to play on that team this year is going to be a big deal.
Dark horse wise, I've got Southside in the mix, Monticello right there with them, and then talking about Dardanelle, we did talk about that a little bit earlier. They do have some guys back, 2 starters and another guy moving over from D line. We'll see how that works out. I do think they don't have the overall depth. If Dardanelle loses a Creed Vega, that's going to be a huge detriment to them. Or a Rod Chatton. I feel like Arkadelphia has a few more guys and some of those like that maybe not overall numbers. I'm not sure. They might have more overall, but I feel like they have talented second and third stringers. More than Dardanelle does. So I think that's what keeps me from picking Dardanelle from, even though they played pretty well last year. It was a close game. So that's why I'm going Arkadelphia as the champ, and then Dardanelle right behind them. Mills and Dardanelle right there together. And like you talked about with Elijah Moody, just a super talented kid. And then after that, like we said, dark horses, South Side for me, Monticello. If you consider those 2 dark horses, I mean, to me, because they're like 5, 6, 4, somewhere in there. Warren right there with them. Um, and then we go down the list. You got the Bauxites and the Stuttgarts and Clintons of the world.
We're not even mentioning Malvern. Malvern's not even in our
Yeah,
top
not
10.
in our top 10.
I mean,
And they easily could
And
be.
I
they,
like them
yeah,
a lot. I
yeah,
was pretty high on them when we broke down that
yeah.
conference.
So there's a lot there to unpack, and we would just want to say thank you once again for joining us. And we'll have 5A, 6A, 7A, and if you haven't already tuned in to 2A, 3A, and this one is your 4A breakdown, and we'll be back with our 5A breakdown very soon. This is Carson. This is Duran. I'm Brad. We'll see you next time.